Good evening. Welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the week's 5 most fucked up topics for 8 minutes. 5 topics, 8 minutes, 2 hosts, a guest, some singing, a lot of curse words, and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. LB, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
Good. Long time no see.
Yeah. Yeah, were we off? We weren't off.
No, I mean you and me, long time no see.
Yeah, you and I, we were together not
Mhm.
long ago. Might be some pictures.
There might be pictures.
There might be pictures. And we'll talk about a lot of that and other things in our after hours tonight. So
Hey, we're going to do after hours. And the link is already up.
The link is already up. Join, subscribe, do all of the things. We want to see everybody in the after hours. We'll have a good time tonight. But right now, I'm happy to be here in our regular hour, in our normal space with you. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah.
You know, it was today was chaotic a little bit, just getting the stuff ready. So, but generally speaking, I'm okay.
And we both have college tours and all that, getting ready for college going on in both our households. So it's a little crazy here, everybody.
Yeah.
But there's no shortage of news as per usual.
Yeah. Hey, what are you drinking? We forgot to say.
Oh, I'm drinking my Fresca.
Okay.
I'm having my Fresca. I know you don't drink soda
on the rocks. You know, it's just.
Oh, you're just going for it.
Yeah, I didn't have time. I don't know. I needed something a little more. I don't know. Old West. You know.
Oh.
Topical. Maybe we're gonna turn the clock back, LB, to 1864.
Did they have ice in the era? I don't know that there was ice
at the time. Not unless they went up to the mountains and actually they, where I am here in the Hudson Valley was a place where they stored the ice to send it southward. Back in the days when you had to actually bring ice from the north.
Ship the ice.
Yeah. This was a big ice place.
Well, I mean, there's such evolved times, such modern times, such progressive thinking, and such a great way of life for everybody. Everything's so easy.
Yeah.
In the mid 1800s, I can understand why there's a whole movement to drag us back to it. Certainly, there's a lot of property in form of human beings.
Well, I guess we should start the clock.
I think we should. Yeah.
I think we mumbled into our first topic here.
We mumbled into it.
We mumbled.
I get a little agitated, so I'm going to try to keep my cool. Why don't you bring us into this? I set the timer.
Okay, so for those unaware, what happened this week is that the state Supreme Court in Arizona, which I thought was less crazy and reactionary than, like, say, Mississippi or Alabama or whatever, but apparently no. They ruled that an 1864 law prohibiting abortion is now constitutional in the state of Arizona because of Dobbs being gotten rid of. This old law is now back on the books. So just to be clear, in 1864, Arizona was not a state. It was a territory.
Not a state.
The Civil War was not over. Slaves were still, a thing. Women could not vote. I think most of the women in Arizona were not, there to raise families and such. It was it was a frontier place at that time. And you had a bunch of, the guy that was in charge was literally a serial pedophile. Literally
on brand for the
totally on brand. And one of the things, as Stephen King tweeted out this morning, one of the pieces in this big law, it's a big long law, is that the age of consent in Arizona was 10. So that's
they want those child brides. Those
they sure
Republicans, do they want the kids?
They do. We'll talk about that in a minute too. Now the legislature came in and the Democrats tried to debate this, and the Republicans immediately shut it down in this kind of assholic way where they were like, okay, should we get out of here? And everyone was like, aye. And then he was like, okay, who says nay? And then before anybody could say nay, he was like, the ayes have it. And they just, I don't know, left.
Oh, he didn't even have a break in the sentence.
Yeah.
it's like all those who say, all those who vote no, the ayes have it. There wasn't even a breath. There wasn't even, it was a blur of words. Yeah.
And this sort of thing seems to happen a lot. It's happened in Tennessee a lot in the legislature there, where these guys are, these Republicans in charge of these states they're just, thumbing their nose and flaunting their corrupt power. It's really anti-democratic and awful. So I have one thing to say about this. Jessica Valenti writes a Substack called Abortion Every Day. And she wrote about this. And I just want to, it sums up basically what I was going to say anyway, but I feel like I want to give her the, the word here. Okay, in the same week, and this is Jessica Valenti, in the same week that Arizona's Supreme Court came down with their ruling, the Tennessee Senate passed a bill that makes it illegal to give a teenager information about abortion. Virginia's governor vetoed legislation that would have prevented the extradition of abortion providers and patients, and the Supreme Court geared up for a case that will determine whether or not states can deny women life-saving abortions. So why did Arizona become a national tipping point? It's the misogyny, stupid. Yes, all attacks on abortion rights are driven by a disdain for women, but what put Americans over the edge is the downright offensive and explicit misogyny it takes to enact a ban from 1864. This is a law adopted before women had the right to vote, and in a time when the man leading the legislature had a penchant for marrying little girls, one 12-year-old, one 14-year-old, and one 15-year-old to be exact. Can you imagine a starker reminder of what this issue is really about? It's like they're rubbing our noses in it. Gone is the pretense that Republicans want to pass abortion bans to protect women's health, or that they're enacting laws in service of some grand morality. With this ruling, the GOP made it clear what their end goal is, forcing women back to a time when we weren't full citizens and we could be married off as children to any 50-year-old lech who decided he wanted us. So that sums up what I have to say about it. And it's absolutely horrifying. I can't believe that we're on here talking about this, honestly, in the year of our Lord 2024, that we've gone back that far with these fucking people. And you and I were talking, we were talking in our production meeting. We were talking about language. And, Biden used the word abortion in an ad for so that word is so loaded, right? The word abortion is so loaded that people have been reluctant to say it. I've been reluctant to say it because I don't want to, I don't want to say the wrong thing. And it occurred to me that the reason that the word doesn't work and that it's not really right is that it's focused on the cells and the blastocysts and the embryo, and not on the woman who is, has this thing inside her. It's about what happens to these cells and not what happens to the woman. So it's not an effective word. It's not a word that really, helps with anything like that. It's
it's kind of anti. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish that.
No, that's it. I mean,
Yeah.
It's interesting how that is. It's designed to take attention away from the woman, which is not right.
Yeah, and I think the sort of an underlying theme for everything we're going to talk about tonight is sort of the power of words and how where you have is sort of people in grabbing for power, what they do with words and what they do with names and what they do, how it all gets distorted and twisted and weaponized and all of that. We've heard those terms before as well. For me, it doesn't sound like a medical procedure. I wish there was a word, if it ended in abortectomy, right? Like a hysterectomy or opsy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're having some kind of Y, and a colonoscopy, we need the opopsy. That type of term, those medical terms, you hear it and you're thinking about the person going through the medical procedure and why they might need it. And, are you okay? And, please recover well. We're able to evoke all of those instantaneous sort of empathetic emotions and thoughts and concern for the patient. But abortion has been so attached to shame that it's been this sort of like fearful, shameful thing to even say you had one when it's a medical procedure.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's all reduced to whispers and everything. And it's not, that's not coming from the act of needing this and having this. That's coming from how it was politicized. And the main tool in that politicization on behalf of the GOP, right? And this becoming this sort of plucked and studied and understood as being a wedge issue that could really radicalize people, and you can get people get all crazy about the babies, whatever, right? And you just end up with folks that are just almost in a fugue state. Like we saw those senators before they tried to pass that bill. The ones involved in it were, I don't know if anybody saw this footage in the Arizona State Senate, were on the floor speaking in their gobbledygook tongues, which is all just fabulous nonsense. I'm sorry. They literally were doing that to get themselves into that fugue state of thinking they're in a holy war or whatever. So that thought of shame, and that shame was used to shame women, to shame providers, to shame constituents, to shame voters, to shame a population away from understanding and communicating about why and how necessary an abortion is, and that it's a medical procedure, and it just made it all like this. So I found it very interesting that the instant, like not even thinking about it, yell out from the women Democrats in the Senate when he did that trick of like, the ayes have it, was shame. It was shame on you, right? Because we've been controlled as women. The main way that the patriarchy has controlled women, really controlled us, other than brute force, has been through shaming us into where we don't even feel like we have agency over our own bodies, that we somehow aren't deserving of that basic human right, that our body is not our own, right? So I kind of wanted to, there's a lot more we can say about that. We're out of time on this segment. I could talk about this forever. As you know, we've had two productive meetings because we start talking about this, and it's so, and I can hear my voice go up in volume, because it's such this whole thing that's happening right now around this, the use of shame, hopefully women taking that power back and being able to point out where the real treachery is, to have the power of being an elected official and to make a mockery even of the vote, the process on the floor of voting like that, is so shameful. That's shameful. That's a shameful act. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you, Donald Trump. Since this is all your issue and you made this happen and you overturned Roe, shame on you. I don't want to say anymore. That's enough.
Okay. We move on. Okay. The other person who's responsible for the all of this horrible stuff happening right now with regards to abortion is my buddy Leonard Leo, forced birth weirdo. For those unfamiliar, Leonard Leo, Clarence Thomas once called him the third most powerful individual in the United States. He's the one of the co-founders of the Federalist Society. He is this dark money maestro who funds all of these weird organizations, Judicial Crisis Network, Beckett Fund. They change names all the time. Yeah. It's always the same cast of weirdos that staff these things. People that are in the painting at Harlan Crow's, the lawyers there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he's the Supreme Court whisperer. He's buddies with Clarence Thomas, and he helped got installed 5 of the justices on the Supreme Court. in John Roberts, in Sam Alito, who nobody knew who that guy was until Leonard Leo came along, and then Trump's 3 horrible choices. These are all Leonard Leo people. He put them on the court, and the primary reason why is to do this. They wanted to overturn Dobbs, and they want to overturn it on a federal level.
Overturn Roe with Dobbs.
Right, overturn Roe with Dobbs. They want to, have an abortion ban on a federal level. They want to ban contraception. They want to get rid of gay marriage. Obviously, trans people, forget it. That they don't acknowledge that exists. They acknowledge that the sky gods, but not, the zygote is whatever. But the living, breathing trans child, they don't have any rights, or we don't have to worry about them. So Leonard Leo, ever since he a year ago, yesterday was when the news broke, when ProPublica story broke about Clarence Thomas getting all that money from Harlan Crow, and since then. All of these people have been in the news a little bit more. Harlan Crow, there was talk they were going to subpoena him. Senate Judiciary subpoenaed Leonard Leo, and Leonard Leo said, pound sand, I'm not doing it, through his lawyer. He said, this is an illegal subpoena. We don't think it matters. I'm not coming. And look, he ain't an elected official. He isn't. He's just a guy, some portly gentleman from central New Jersey. I
kind of want to call him Leonard Weeble because he looks like a Weeble Wobble.
He does,
and
look
I
like
keep
a Weeble Wobble.
thinking he's a Weeble Wobble.
He's not an elected official.
Yeah,
he is a private citizen who has been subpoenaed by the Senate fucking Judiciary Committee to go talk about like the dark money swirling around all this stuff and the fact that the Supreme Court has no ethics, anything at all, and he's refusing to do that. So we need to make sure, again, you and I have been saying this for years now. When Congress first started doing the subpoenas, they have to put these fuckers in jail. The first time one of these assholes goes to jail or the little Congress room or whatever it is,
right,
for not violating a subpoena, they will all never do it again because they're all cowards. Right. The only person that went to jail for it is Peter Navarro, who's far removed from really anybody being in power in any way, much to the surprise and consternation of Peter Navarro. Anyway, this is what Leonard Leo has done. He is thumbing his nose at the rule of law. He's thumbing his nose at the rule of law, probably thinking, what are you going to do? We'll just send it to the Supreme Court. And then his buddies will just be like, yeah, Leonard Leo doesn't have to testify. So, what are you hiding, Leonard Leo? Why are you so afraid to testify, Leonard Leo? If you're so above board and haven't broken any laws, Leonard Leo, why aren't you telling us? Why aren't you saying so?
Why is Leonard Leo above the law?
Yeah, I don't know. And if you were to pick someone in the United States to be above the law, it would not be that fucking guy. It just wouldn't.
I don't know how much I have to say about this. Because it's all, what does anybody expect?
Yeah. And that's the sad piece is that I don't expect him to ever testify, No,
because no one's going to hold him to account.
But you know what? I just thought of this. I remember a couple years back, 3-4 years ago, I made a list of like open questions about stuff in the Trump administration. And I try to think about things that no way we were ever going to get the answers to. And one of them was Jeffrey Epstein. There's no way they're going to indict him. There's no way that's going to ever happen. And like that happened. So things do happen. Sometimes these horrible people really do get to face consequences for the horrible, horrible things they do. So,
well, isn't he under some type of investigation? Wasn't there an article that came out about that?
They're in the District of Columbia. The DA is investigating Leonard Leo, as I understand it. Since I don't know since the Politico article that Heidi Prisbilla wrote, which, and then what do you know? The article was written, the investigation starts, and suddenly all these, Leonard Leoites are all up in arms about Heidi Prisbilla. Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what they're targeting the DA's office. I mean, these people they're not nice people, and they should be, because you're supposed to be nice if you're a Christian, as I understand it. That's what I was kind of thing. But I don't know. Leonard Leo knows about religion more than I do. So
Well, He's to me, it's Leonard Leo and Mike Johnson. I there's like there's a lane there for these prisses, you
Yeah.
know, where they profess all this stuff. And again, I don't think it's really any less performative. Although I do think they believe it in the at the level of, this is the persona that I need because anything else is an existential threat to the shit I'm hiding.
Mhm.
Like, it's like, I don't know how calculated in terms of sociopathic they are, or if they're just, they've just sort of thrust themselves, they've Blanche Dubois themselves into, a sort of their stances, and they're, oh, we're going to go get this. And it gives them energy and it gives them life to feel like they're in their cause. But, we used to understand what denial was and how it worked and what it looked like, and used to call it out. And I don't know why that stopped either. I feel like maybe we got shamed away from doing that.
Yeah.
So I wish this man could be more comfortable with who he really is. And if this is who he really is, then shame on you, Mitch McConnell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shame on Mitch McConnell for letting this guy just run amok.
Yeah.
Just run amok and do whatever he wanted and protect. I think Mitch McConnell is the big protector of Leonard Leo. I really do.
I think you're right.
I think he is, and he was. And this is why we have these justices, and this is why there's all this woke, make us be ashamed for being aware and having and caring and having compassion. This is, he's in his Leonard Leo and Mitch McConnell, and they're anti-woke, anything about all that. And I know Mitch doesn't want to be seared to him anymore. He doesn't want to be seen as that. He got his justices. He held the seats open. He did all of the fuckery for God knows why. He satisfied whoever his masters are. But he certainly ceded a tremendous amount of power to Leonard Leo. And he seems to be sort of distancing, and maybe he's just unwell, but kind of like, well, I'm not that weirdo. I'm not that guy. I'm not with that guy. I'm just this, seasoned senator, this established
Statesman.
I'm a statesman. Shame on you, Mitch McConnell. Shame on you. You and Donald, you're the same. You're the same. You're the same crusty dude. Shame on you. Crusty old man. Women are going to die because of these men.
Women already have died.
They're already dying.
Yeah.
Children are going to be raped because of these men.
Already are being raped because of these men. Yep. Good job, though, guys. Good job on you. Fucking assholes. Okay.
All right.
Media time.
Oh, a little levity. Thank God.
Yeah.
If they win, Michael Flynn will be back in charge. Donald Trump will round us up, load the Gitmo barge. They want bans on gays and trans and women's right to choose. Trump as POTUS or Santa SCOTUS, Aidan Cannon or Ted Cruz. Hey, they're gonna take our rights away. Hey, they're gonna take our rights away.
Okay, not as levity as we'd hoped.
It's more sad than funny.
We did talk about how sad it was, but it is
Yeah.
important. The animation Thank
The
you.
animation is great. Chunk is always great.
Thank you,
It's
Chuck.
always good stuff. The Ted Cruz like jerking his
not
head.
knowing where to stand.
I like the placement of Mike Flynn's like head, like on it.
Yeah.
That was also quite good.
Yeah.
And remember the Gitmo barges? Remember Ginny Thomas said,
Oh yeah.
yeah, they're gonna be put on barges to Gitmo, the Biden crime.
Oh my God.
Fucking whack job. And she's
Bless her
like
heart.
running the
Bless
entire
her.
Supreme Court.
Yeah.
With the thruple there. Okay. Art, let's get to our guest.
Let's get to our
She's been
guest.
waiting long enough. She is a documentary filmmaker.
Yes.
You've seen her clips all over the social media, all over the Twitters, all over everywhere. Her film is called True Believers at the Insurrection. Sandi Bachom, how are you?
Yes.
Hi, guys.
Friend
Welcome
of
back.
5'8" from the very
Used to
beginning.
Stay at Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah.
You know, you were my first, Greg. Be gentle. You were my first podcast.
We
was
always
you.
have fond memories of the first, special place in the heart.
And
So.
still the best, most views or something.
It's my most downloaded podcast. Absolutely.
Wow,
It
I've
is.
done so much more since then.
I know.
Wow.
It's the longest one and it's the most downloaded one because it's all about J6 because you were talking about
I was
J6
there,
before
baby. I witnessed.
before the FBI was, before Merrick Garland was certainly.
You know,
Not that that's saying anything.
My reporting, this is not being egotistical. I'm just saying that the reporting that I did about where the fuck was the National Guard and about Trump firing after he lost, which he will do again this year, next year, he's going to do exactly the same thing. They're going to bring Manafort back. They're going to bring QAnon back. It's just like a complete replica, but they've learned, from their mistakes. So, but I went through all of the phone calls. I went through all the available reporting. I put it on a spreadsheet. I found Bill Moyers did a timeline, New York Times, Washington Post, all these timelines, and I put all the calls and the times on an Excel spreadsheet, which took me about a week to figure out how to do that. And then I took those times and those 14 phone calls, and Scott, who's the guy from CBS? Scott McFarlane, who used to follow me on my old, I lost my account, everybody. Follow me on @real Sandi Bachom, SandiBachom, because they took my fucking account away with 225,000 followers.
Elon Musk.
By they, we mean Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Oh, but they just gave me a blue check yesterday on my frozen account.
I saw
they
that.
don't have any,
So they protect your frozen account.
Okay,
you took it and you put it.
I put it on a thing, and then I took that timeline and I put it over my footage of where I was that day. And there were 14 calls, and Scott McFarlane from, I don't know where he is now, CBS, I believe. He's been doing a yeoman's job of, all the trials and everything, and a lovely guy. And he was the one that found 12 phone calls a couple of years ago. And I took that original template, and then I found 2 more. And these were frantic calls for the National Guard. But what they did was, after Trump lost, and this had to have been in the works for years. I think this was in the works since Roger Stone came up with Stop the Steal in 2016, in case he lost, right? So it's been going for quite a long time. So he fired Mark Esper, who's been making the rounds for some reason recently. I wish somebody would ask him, did they ask you if you would be okay with not calling the National Guard on January 6th? And it's probably why he quit. And he installed Chris Miller. And Chris Miller is a wacko conspiracy theorist. And he's the one who, and who his chief of staff was? Kash Zelig Patel, who's like everywhere.
Yeah.
And he's going to be the head of the NSA or something. I mean, these people, I was at CPAC, and the people, all of them were speaking there. And this is going to be the cabinet. And they're going to fire, 3,000 people day one. Bannon says day one, 3,000. Anyway, that's Project 2025, another show. So I put all these things down, and I realize that in DC, and the only people who can call up the National Guard are the President of the United States and the Secretary of Defense, because it's not a state, it's a district. And in a normal state, the governor calls up the National Guard. The governor is the only one who can deploy the guard. But in DC, it's the president, and he was watching TV that day, and Chris Miller. And they got 14 calls, 14 crazy calls. Nancy Pelosi called. She's not in the chain of command. She's not in the chain of command.
But there was no command. They figured that out, right?
Yeah, well, they cut it off. I mean, but the chain of command is president, and it's simple. The chain of command with the National Guard, they were waiting. I left at 5:30, and I never saw them because he didn't get them there until about 5:30.
Yeah.
He got by the time I left, the National Guard showed up. Meanwhile, people had died. You know what happened. So anyway, I stand by that reporting. It's never changed, and I put it into a little film, and did the film festival circuit, and some pretty exciting things are coming out of it that I can't talk about right now. But
wonderful!
But I did it. I made a movie by myself, and anybody who's out there, I'm 80. In October. Anybody who thinks, oh, I'm too old, I'm too fat, whatever it is that's holding you back, just do it. And I did it. And I had some wonderful special friends that I, showed it to and got their advice, and, colleagues of mine. And I'd never done it before. I never, beginning, middle, and end. And then people from Twitter gave me money so I could enter into the film festivals, because it's really expensive, and I won some awards, and it was a fantastic experience. I mean, I did it. I did.
I
so
think
next,
it's so wonderful.
We can stream it now somewhere, though, right?
It's linked onto my.
Sandy, it wasn't just like I made this film that was like my artistic expression. Not that that's not valuable and everything. It's the historic importance of what you did as well. I don't want to just brush past that,
Yeah.
So I do think talk about something that's going to live on and be is really important. So I just,
thank you.
I was your.
I know you were an early adapter.
Yeah.
I mean, both of you guys, everybody was so supportive, and it's really hard. It was really hard, but I did it, and as I said, some things are coming from it, because when you make a leap of faith like that you do something you don't think you can do, then it opens up doors that you were beyond your wildest dreams. So that's where I am now.
Wonderful.
See a movie called Bad Faith. It's going to be talking about Leonard Leo and Michael Flynn and all those guys. It's look it up on Twitter, #Bad Faith. And one of the guys from the film was on Joy Reid tonight, talking about it. And I went to a screening of it a couple of days ago, and it's about the history of how the Christian nationalist movement, where it came from. It's decades. And my mother was a charter member of the John Birch Society.
Oh my gosh.
In the 1950s.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Wow.
I keep forgetting.
Wow.
Wacko, bless her heart. But she, and she loved Nixon. She gave money to Nixon, and
we've been here before a little bit. This is a new time. There's new stuff happening. It's worse than ever in terms of.
But these guys are patient, and and this Christian nationalist thing. We were talking about the people on the floor of the Arizona, whatever that was. I don't know which house it was.
Arizona Senate.
Yeah, and they were. I learned there's a word for it called glossolalia. That's speaking in tongues. And I flew all the way to Ohio to see Paula White speak in tongues, and she didn't fucking do it. It was evangelicals for Trump. And I went there right when the pandemic started, March of 2020. And there were about 30 pastors there. And you know who Pastor Locke is? Do you know who that is? Yeah. Yes. Well, I go to see Civil War last night in IMAX in New York City, and there was an ad for Fathom Events for Pastor Locke. He's going to be preaching, and it's in the movie theaters all across the country. And that's what they're doing.
Ooh.
Yeah. He's like talk about Christo-fascist, and they're all that, Rod of Iron, all these guys.
Yeah,
we
so
have to
Paul-
be
that's also
vigilant.
another show. That's a whole other show too that deserves that kind of attention.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Paula White is Trump's spiritual advisor and the wife of Jonathan Cain from Journey, I believe.
Yes, and she went.
really
She
weird.
went into the bank account. Did you hear that? She stole the money from the bank account, Journey's bank account. She went in
Yeah.
there and she stole the money.
She went in there with open arms, closed her
Grifter's
arms,
got a
around
grip.
her, didn't she? And then the money and Journey went their separate ways. Yes,
Yeah,
that's exactly.
He
what
was
happened.
there.
exactly
He
what
was
happened.
there. He was with her that night.
Yeah.
there's a
Or
song
whatever his
for
name is.
everything.
So I think on the topic of
Grifters?
celebrities married to political people, you've been covering, and we wanted you to come on also to talk about this.
Wait, I got a cat related thing here. Hold
Oh,
on.
that's
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Yeah, okay,
That's
okay,
all right.
All right, you understand.
We
me.
love
Can
a
we see
cat,
the
yeah.
cat? Are we allowed to see the cat?
she's a psycho. You can't touch her. She'll claw
Okay.
you.
Oh my
Real
God.
psycho.
Okay, so
Yeah,
you've been filming RFK Jr. You've been.
Yeah,
I saw
yeah,
your clip of him
yeah,
was viral on Twitter.
yeah.
I find that he's super dangerous. I think that his candidacy is it's dangerous and also hopeless. Like
Well, that's not the purpose of it. The purpose is to take it. His campaign manager said it. The purpose is to take votes away from Biden.
Yeah.
He's the Jill Stein of Tulsi Gabbard's.
I like that. That's
You're
a good
welcome.
one.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just before we get
Very
into
good.
the specifics of him, RFK is running as an independent, so he's a third party guy. Okay,
Yeah.
a third party. It's never won, will never win, does not. There's only 5 third party candidates have ever gotten any electoral votes in any election. You know how many electoral votes Ross Perot got?
Mm,
None.
none.
Teddy Roosevelt, when he ran third party in 1912, got 88 electoral votes. Teddy Roosevelt, he's one of the 4 best presidents of all time. He's on Mount Rushmore. He couldn't even get enough votes to move the needle.
Yeah.
And this fucking guy's going to do anything? He's
Well,
absolutely
and
spoiled.
his
Yes.
campaign manager actually find the clip and watch it. She actually said that if there's a tie, it goes to the Congress or something.
Yeah, it
His
goes to the House.
purpose. His purpose is to tie it,
Yeah,
and then it goes
Between
into
Donald
the House.
and between
Goes in the
Donald and Biden.
yeah. If
Yeah,
it's a tie,
so-
the House sorts it
It's
out.
so in bad faith. They talked about the early Christian nationalists because they've been doing this for a long time. Leonard Leo, of course, is one of them, but they were racist. The Ku Klux Klan and all that. They were basically racist, but they couldn't run on racism, so they picked abortion and religion. And that's how come abortion came in. Because what does that have to do with anything? What is it? I don't understand. When I was a girl, abortion was illegal. And, and my heart goes out to, you either, I'm from Hollywood, you either went to Tijuana and had some kind of horrible abortion, a Beverly Hills doctor, you had the baby and gave it up for adoption, or you had the baby and then you went on welfare and you kept it yourself. There's no happy, I don't understand. I honestly don't understand the pain. I guess it's a religion. I was raised a Christian. This
Anti-women.
isn't Christian. Greg, you're a Christian, right? You
There's
were raised a
nothing to
Christian?
do. All the ancient religions and all that stuff believe that life begins when you draw first breath. That's what it is. So no, it's a fucking
At the
fairy
third
tale.
drink. It begins at the third drink.
Right. It's a fairy tale. They've managed to convince everybody that abortion equals baby killing, and that's not what it is. There's still these Republicans go on TV and say that they're 9-month
9
abortions.
months.
and
Yeah. I know.
babies are born and then aborted, and it's like, what do you? That doesn't
Again, the
happen.
language has to change. I think owning the word, being people just talking about the word
Saying that
abortion,
word
using
is-
the word
yeah.
abortion, letting that have power, clarifying, educating, all of that is so, so important.
Mhm.
And as I said, there's another part of it. It's not just that abortion is about what's happening to the cells instead of what's happening to the woman. The way that it's talked about is, well, she's having a baby or is she having an abortion. So it's talked about, and even in the pro-choice of like, well, you need that choice of we're having something. That's not what's happening. So all of that dialogue forever and the shame and everything, all of that, we've got to really actively, thoughtfully, purposefully move beyond that and start seizing this and putting it in our own terms and for the purposes of what it actually is in reality. So I commend the Biden campaign.
Yeah, but that ad was, you saw that ad, right?
Yeah.
Where this is Trump did this, that's really good. Really good.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm counting on the Swifties. I filmed the Swifties at a Taylor Swift concert. I did. I went to a Taylor Swift concert when the Eras tour, and I went out to New Jersey on this magnificent night. I never posted it because I've just been too busy, but I'm about to. These kids and their mothers, thousands of them, are in the parking lot singing along to every song that every lyric to every song, right? And they gave me this. Wait, hold on a second. Hold on. Look, they gave me these.
Oh, what are those? Tell us about them.
These are the friendship bracelets.
Friendship bracelets, Swiftie friendship bracelets.
Yeah, and you see people with these, and you go, "Oh, you're Swiftie," and that's like a secret handshake, But she has that. She is registering voters.
Yes,
she said a really smart thing. She said, "Vote for the person that best holds your values. The thing represents your values,
Yeah.
So don't discount the first-time voters. Don't discount the people my age who've already been through this. So let's talk about RFK. So something happened. I wish you could see my board here. When Trump ran on October 28, 2017, was the first QAnon drop. And this is, I learned a lot about that since I talked to you last. And the reason I'm bringing it up is that RFK is straight up QAnon. He says that Bill Gates is putting 5G chips in your head. He said this where Martin Luther King gave his I Had a Dream speech. He gave it and it was very expensively produced rally. Very expensive. Like Gavin DeBecker was the security guy. Because I got a bracelet and I look and I said, Gavin DeBecker, do you remember him?
He's like no, that's somebody.
Yeah, he had written a book.
Yes, I know. Yes, I know all about this. I'm shocked. I didn't know Gavin DeBecker.
Yeah, he was the.
I know who we're going to shame at the end of this segment.
Gavin DeBecker?
No.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, this is
good. So anyway, what happened was there's Trump, and then in October 28th of 2017. This was a couple of months after Charlottesville, and one of the I've interviewed QAnons for years, all over the country, and I asked them all, when did you get into it? And they said October 28, 2017. And I said, how did you get into it? And they all go QAnon, 4chan, 8chan, and one guy in Minneapolis said Guccifer 2.0, and that's right. So Guccifer 2.0, October of, when was the 2016, right?
Yeah.
Where they hacked. He's a hacker. He's a Romanian hacker.
These are the Romanian hackers. It was part of the special counsel investigation. This was connected to WikiLeaks, Roger Stone.
Roger Stone, the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So this guy is holding a sign in my video, and Alex Gibney did a fantastic film called The Agents of Chaos. I don't know if you saw it, but he does a whole chapter on Guccifer 2.0, and it's terrifying. And the Circus Inside did the thing with Roger Stone just before the election, and Julian Assange was on that segment. And Roger Stone gets up from the table at the Russian tea room and he said, "It's not over till we say it's over." Well, Manafort took the polling data. He gave it to the Russians. They hacked the DNC server. The whole thing happened. But this army, Flynn's digital army, which is these QAnon followers, the guy is holding a sign. And it was just bothering me. I went back and I found the video. the sign is a website. He said, I was on Twitter and I saw this tweet from Guccifer 2.0 and he had this website. And I went on the website and it's every Q drop from October 28, 2017 to 2022. There are 4,633 Q drops.
QAnon.
What it is,
yeah, I know that our audience knows, but some people are a little broader. So Sandy's speaking about the QAnon, that cult
we
following.
communicate. Yeah.
Right. And so what Q drop was that this character Q was supposedly inside deep in state.
Yeah,
protecting
industrial
all the pedophiles and Hillary.
And Trump is Q plus. Trump is
right. And so that persona Q would post these things. And so that's what a Q drop is, just for anybody who doesn't.
But it's said, thank you, because I'm a little in the weeds here. Sorry.
That's okay.
But what I learned from looking at this website is that Anthony Weiner's laptop, Hunter Biden's laptop, Jeffrey Epstein, fucking Pizzagate, they'll drop that. They'll go, oh, there's a restaurant in so-and-so. There are no coincidences. Do your own research, right?
Yeah.
And then what a coincidence. Something happens and, because they're feeding it to them.
Right.
It's the biggest psyop that I'm aware of. I'm sure there are more going on, but I think that it's going to start up again because Flynn was at Mar-a-Lago last week.
Mike Flynn, the former,
Michael Flynn, who has been nonstop going around with this Christo-fascist bullshit. This, what's it called? The Awakening Tour.
Yeah, I saw.
And they had it. They screened this Pizzagate film. Anyway, so the reason I bring that up is that so the election happened, then the pandemic happened, and all the MAGA people went from, it's all the same people, but they went from Trump, to being behind him, all that stuff. And then then there was the pandemic, and first of all, it was I'm not going to wear a mask. You wear a mask. It became anti-mask. It became lockdown. It became anti-mandate. So then people were getting vaccines. It was anti-vaccine, but then people were getting vaccines, and they're like saving their lives, right? So we can't ban the vaccines. I know. Well, it'll be anti-mandate, right? So RFK Jr., you can get him, but we just don't want to be mandated. So I go to DC on January 23rd, 2023, and RFK Jr. is giving a speech at the Lincoln Memorial, right where Martin Luther King spoke at the podium, the exact same spot. There were a lot of people there. They were all MAGAs. They had signs with Mengele as Fauci dressed as Mengele. Mm. They had the Nuremberg codes, and I would ask them, what does that mean? They go, it's World War II. Google it.
That's all in their forums. So that's all in their Reddit forums and their Facebook groups.
They say the same thing.
Forums. They're in their safe spaces. They've created safe spaces for their conspiracies. And so it's not something that it's not hard to find, but unless you go and look for it, you're not going to know about this or hear about it in the news or anything. It's like,
it stopped. They stopped these drops. Stopped at I think it stopped just before, but they still were up there till in December 2022. So he gets up there and he says, he was talking about they take away your rights, because he's been an anti-vaxxer forever, right? But he's got that name. So Bannon and Roger Stone enlisted him to run for president. There's pictures of all of them together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He gets up there and he says,
and with Mike Flynn. Mike Flynn's in those pictures.
Flynn, and Flynn too. Yeah. It's a cabal of the Project 2025ers.
Yeah.
And he gets up there and he goes, once they take away your rights, you'll never get them back again. And even Anne Frank could hide in her attic. He was equating she had it good compared to what we're going through. It was so shocking. You should watch the whole video. It's up on my YouTube channel.
I actually, I have that just because I was going to show this last week and we ran out of time. It's very badly done on my phone, but I have the clip. Do you want me? Should we show it?
Yeah,
It's
sure.
30 seconds.
Yeah, because he talks about Bill Gates putting 5G in your brain. Yeah.
Okay, this is good.
To steal your.
In Hitler's Germany, you could cross the Alps to Switzerland. You can hide in an attic like Anne Frank did. Within 5 years, we're going to see 415,000 low orbit satellites. Bill Gates says his 65,000 satellites alone will be able to look at every square inch of the planet 24 hours a day. They're putting in 5G to harvest our data and control our behavior. Digital currency that will allow them to punish us from a distance and cut off our food supply.
I mean, I'm scared.
I know.
I mean, it's bullshit.
Well, here's one thing I want to. My mom brought up this point, and I think it's important now to. I don't want to. I think everybody gets how horrendous this person is, and his family, his siblings, have been speaking out and saying, we don't. He's crazy. He's like, blah, and they're offended and they're upset and all of this stuff. I wish, and my mom said this, and I'm with her. I wish his family would speak from a place of grief.
Like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Real power.
What they've been through. Yeah.
Well, this is the son that carries the father's name.
Yeah.
Their dad was assassinated.
Yeah.
They were all left fatherless. And it wasn't the first assassination in the family.
Yeah, second one, yeah.
And he stood for unity. He did. He stood for justice. He stood for truth. It's not just that his son that carries his name is betraying everything that the father stood for. And it's blatant and obvious and clear. It's that there's a sadness to this, and I would love for them to speak from that sadness of what he's doing to them, feelings about their father, and what he's doing to the name, that family's name, that has had so much loss.
You know, honey,
those boys died. Those brothers died because of the Kennedys. They were killed because of the Kennedys.
So what he did, this is what, I'm sorry to interrupt you because I know we're for time, but that's exactly what I wanted to say. The next piece of this is when I was down. So he sent out a tweet. I don't know if you saw it, talking about them dying and him needing security when he was running, when he announced that he was running. And apparently you don't get Secret Service till you're, you don't get it just because you announce.
It was like he desecrated his father again with that, because he doesn't get it. He's saying, because I should have it because, and he evoked the.
No, but what he did was worse. So what he did was he wrote this tweet. Now we who follow the Nazi thing knew what it was. On the first line, you should find it, Greg, at some point. I'll post it on your page. He said something about it's been 14 weeks.
14 weeks
and 88 days. Some on the same line, right? Well, in the Nazi parlance, the 14 words are the preserving a white race for our children. It's Hitler's Germany.
From a very infamous, sort of godfather in terms of thought leader for the neo-Nazi movement. He wrote those words when he was in prison. So it's also like the person who came up with the 14 words as a symbol and a slogan for the neo-Nazi movement in America. Specific to that is this big sort of hero for the Nazis, for the actual living Nazis today, this Nazi movement. And 88 stands for HH. eighth letter of the alphabet, 88 is Heil
It's
Hitler.
Heil Hitler. But it's
So
back. We're coming
1488
back
is
to
used as a symbol.
we're
Yeah.
coming back to Christian nationalism. This is
Yeah.
all connected because Charlottesville was all about white supremacy and Christian nationalism and
Yeah.
you know preserving the white race. Although some of them are black and Spanish, I don't get it. So we go down to Florida because we thought that this group Blood Tribe, who are neo-Nazi, they're cosplay Nazis.
Yeah.
You know, a friend of mine who was a Holocaust survivor, I said, why do they carry that flag? He said, because they don't know what the Nazis really did. You know, putting babies on bayonets. You know, that was actually a thing. So we go down there, so we find them. And there were two groups of Nazis we found that day. We went down to Orlando. And the first group was at Disney World. And they're National Socialists, I think. And they had DeSantis flag, a swastika, and a picture of RFK Jr. with 1488 under it. And I go, oh, so you got the message. Oh, loud
They
and
always get
clear.
that message. That's their message. That's their
Loud
symbol.
and clear.
Yeah.
He's one of us.
One of us.
He's one of us, they said.
So
So that's where we are.
shame on you, Cheryl.
Shame!
Hines. Shame on you, Cheryl Hines.
Cheryl fucking Hines. Cheryl,
I
she
know where
was-
that
yeah,
Gavin de Becker thing is. Shame on you.
Yeah.
Shame.
Okay.
Okay, so Sandy, can you stick around or you have to go?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm here. I'm good.
Okay, good. Okay.
Okay.
Now we move
Sorry to
the-
interrupt you, LB.
Oh, you didn't.
I got so excited.
You didn't.
No, but you translated for me. That was good.
We have to because it's when you're in the weeds with it, like
I
what
know,
especially
other
if you're a
people don't know
filmmaker
what I'm
and you're
talking
in
about.
there, and it's and it's just sort of making sure we're rolling it back to the degree to inform people
Yeah.
about this isn't like I remember, and it just one thing, and then we'll pivot. I remember when I was trying to raise the alarm about how many times 1488 was coming out of the Trump White House. Just it was on a regular basis. They were using that number in every way that they could. And I was trying to get people to understand, and people, I mean, journalists and people who could get this more in a mainstream way, the communication out there. I'm like, they might as well be hoisting up a swastika, the Nazi flag from the White House. It's the same thing to the people they're talking to.
They hear it. Proud boys, stand back, stand by.
Exactly.
The ones who need to hear it, hear it.
The ones, and it's not a mistake. It's not like it's a number you just pull out
No.
of there. It's
No.
just not. So, and there were so many Christian nationalists, people associated with that we knew had writings about praising Hitler, and folks that worked at that White House that could be tied directly to either a Nazi movement, a known Nazi movement, and belonging in it, or had enough in their social media history or associations with Christian nationalist group that were that were also aligned with things like League of the South, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
These, the kind of folks that showed up in Charlottesville,
They were there. Yeah.
there were enough people in that White House that you also couldn't have plausible deniability with that either. Like they knew what they were doing. So I don't know what it's going to take to get this to be taken seriously, that these folks, they mean it. They mean it. They do believe in this. And Trump,
it's not a coincidence.
No.
That's why they say, "Oh, what a coincidence!" They say on the keyboard it said, "There are no coincidences." Yeah,
there are no coincidences.
Exactly.
Greg Olear. All right, Greg, where are you taking us?
All right,
we
the next place we're going is we're going to Rikers Island because
We are.
we're going to Rikers. Well, we're not going to Rikers.
No.
We're not going to Rikers.
Okay.
Somebody else is going to Rikers, and that somebody is Alan Weisselberg, who is the
5 months.
the accountant, the mob accountant. He's not the good mob accountant like in Midnight Run. It's not Charles Grodin in Midnight Run.
He's not.
He's a bad mob accountant, right? He's a bad mob accountant who knew what he was doing, knew what he was getting himself into, and that's what he was doing. And LB, I want you to kind of explain to everybody, who this guy is, how he relates to everything. Do you want to hear my very quick Rikers Island story?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I had a friend who worked at Legal Aid, and they used to give tours of Rikers Island for the legal aid attorneys. And the guy on the tour said, okay, so to answer your question, yes, people do escape, but we only have to send 2 cars, one to his mother's house, one to his girlfriend's house, and they're back in here by dinner time. That's it. That's what the guy said on the tour. It's very funny. Okay, anyway, Weisselberg, going to Rikers.
I'm going to go to Rikers. Sandy, I'm going to ask, I think we've got a lot of background noise there with you. If it's possible. Is there a door?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. All right, there we go.
Is that better?
That's so much better.
Okay, sorry.
No worries.
Okay.
Well, I just, look, I don't want to keep saying the same things over and over again, but I do think it's important to remind everyone. So Alan Weisselberg came into Donald's sort of Trump orbit from Fred. So he worked for Fred Trump for a number of years. And it's important to remember who Fred Trump was in business with. There's a quick Roger Stone story that Roger Stone tells. Now, I don't know how much we can believe out of Roger Stone's mouth, but we know when it comes to Roy Cohn that there's legitimacy to this, to the setup of this story, to the dynamics, if the details Roger was elaborating, I don't know. But Roger tells this story. I think it was in a Vanity Fair article, and you can look it up. Of how he went to try to get some money from Roy Cohn, right? And get some counsel from Roy. He knew Roy, and thinking he would get Roy to sort of help him. I think it was with Reagan's campaign. I think it was when he was trying to put together stuff for Reagan back in the 80s. And out in Roy's apartment, out comes Fat Tony Salerno, the head of the Genovese crime family at that time, who was one of Roy's clients. And also Roy was he was in with all of these, the five families, and in particular the Genovese and the Gambinos. He represented all of them, but also he did a lot of business with them. He ended up being disbarred for stuff associated with one of the liquor and bootlegging partners to these gangsters. So out comes Fat Tony Salerno. Roger Stone, according to him, meets Tony Salerno. And in this moment, and Roy Cohn says he's looking for money for either a local politician or for Reagan. I don't remember, quite frankly. And Tony said, okay, have him get it from Fred.
Oh.
So wow. the money even for political campaigns was this story rings true. And I do believe Roy backed up a lot of this. That was coming from, Fred was one of the cutouts. He's one of the business fronts. He was in partnership with these guys. He developed all over Genovese territory, Coney Island. He did all these big developments. Right. Fred Trump, Trump Village, all this stuff.
Mobbed up.
That was done in partnership with the construction companies that were owned and controlled, it's specific to Fred, by the Genovese crime family, by Tony Salerno. So just understand that if the guy that's in there then making sure the checks get cut and balancing the books and all of that is Weisselberg. The guy. So, we could say, well, maybe he didn't know, maybe he's not, who knows? He's just good at the numbers. But I just can't imagine the head of the Genovese crime family, and later the Gambinos as well, which would have been Paul Castellano at that time. It's just being okay with just anybody keeping the books for their business front, Fred Trump. I don't have any proof that Weisselberg was put into the Trump organization pre-Donald and then continue on Donald originally by a mob boss, but I wouldn't be surprised because you don't fuck with the money.
Yeah, and they're always the Jews. That's the only Jews he'll have around. I produced.
That's what Donald said. I only want them if they're counting my
advisors. Yeah,
I don't think that's an original phrase from Donald. I don't think he came up with that. I think he got that from his father or from one of the mob bosses that he grew up with.
I don't know if you have time for this, but I produced commercials for Trump casinos, and I was a big producer for 40 years in advertising, and I produced commercials for Trump Casino, and 1986. And Ivana hated the casting, and people like Newman from Seinfeld was it. I mean, these great New York character actors were all at 86, right? So he stiffed the agency. He wouldn't pay for the agency. So he refused to pay the agency.
Of course.
He said this. So he wrote a letter to Jay Chiat, whose agency it was.
Chiat Day.
And he was a superstar at that time, you know,
Yep.
Apple, and some kind of personal vitriolic thing. And Jay takes the letter, and he writes on it. He says, "Dear Donald, you need to alert your security. Some maniac has gotten hold of your letterhead." So apparently, what he did was he stiffed all the advertising agencies. You know, I don't even know what he did for the spots, because shortly after that they went belly up, but they were all mobbed up. You know, you talk to what is the guy who was on The Apprentice, who worked on The Apprentice? Noel. You know Noel.
Yeah,
Mark
no.
Bass.
Yeah, no. Yeah, and he'll tell you all about it. You know, they were just famously mobbed up.
What I don't think anyone's considered is also, you have to understand he may not have ever been in control of the checkbook.
Who?
So, Donald. So
Uh-huh.
maybe he's out there engaging and hiring people and saying, you're going to go do all of this, but it was not up to him whether he was going to pay or not. It's something worth considering.
Yeah.
So I know it's like, oh, don't do business with him, he'll stiff you. Well, you're actually not doing business with him. He might be engaging everybody. Who knows whether he checks whether he can engage somebody. But when it comes time to pay, I don't know that Donald was the bottom line person who said pay it or don't pay it.
No, he's a
I think for
puppet,
quite a
you know,
number of years, his father was in control of all of that. And his brother, Bob, was in control of all of that for a very long time. So
is he the one who died from alcoholism?
He's the one who just died recently. Go to Donald because he probably is the one who's like, I'll do the deal, right? But he's the name, but he's not. I don't know how much, you know. And I'm trying to say this and get this used by the defense to say he doesn't control the checkbook. So it's like, well, who does? Who's bigger than you? You know. And there's a couple of answers in there that are scarier than one would want to contemplate. Yeah. So that's my Weisselberg bit. I also knew he was never going to flip. I called that on.
No, never.
I was going to say
they paid him $2 million. He gets 5 months in Rikers, 10 months in Rikers.
Listen, he's from a world where you're going to do time, and look at how long it took for him to ever have to pay the piper. So he's just doing his time. $2
million.
Going away.
I don't think they're through with him yet. I don't think they're through with him yet.
We'll see.
You know,
I don't know. I don't have any. I don't know.
And what is the stock on True Social now today? 30?
I don't know.
It's down to 30. Is
it down to 30? Good.
Yeah.
From 60 or whatever? Good.
It's 100. It's going to go down to 4 because that's what Nunes.
It's going to be a penny stock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Penny stock. Yeah.
All right. Do we have announcements? This is when we do our announcements.
Our announcement section. Sandy, what do you want to announce? Anything? Is there anything to announce? Or do you?
No, I just wanted LB. I wanted to say one quick thing, and I love you so much, but you're too logical, Mr. Spock. You know, I am a MAGA whisperer. I'll say it. I go both ways. I talk to them. I was with them this weekend with Proud Boys. I was there at Bedminster. And my thing is, we're going to have to find a way. This guy with the flags on the car, he actually, the truck. Oh, I shot this thing, Kathy Griffin protest. And the car in the protest was the one with Biden hogtied on the back of it.
Oh,
that's Vinny. Vinny owns that truck.
Oh,
and
because of course he does.
Of course, Vinny. And Vinny followed Trump to the airport, and then that became that whole big thing. You know, Trump never took a still of it. By the way, the whole thing was made up by the mainstream media. So I talked to them, and I figure if I can talk to them, and they can listen to me, and I can listen to them, but they are so baked in. So one of them reached out to me and gave me a tip about the Kathy Griffin thing. We knew that was going to happen. I told Kathy, she's a friend, and I shot the video. He reached out to me on Instagram, and he started sending me stuff like, horrible memes and, Trump memes and stuff like that. And I said, I fucking hate this guy. He belongs in jail. I hate him. But we started talking. And I said, I have to hand it to you for reaching out to me. He reached out to me. And then when I finally met him, he drives around in a limo that looks like a presidential limo. And then guys get out like Secret Service guys and talk in their it's a they cosplay. They're so sincere in their love for this guy. I don't know what they would kill for him.
That's
They
right.
would kill for him. And
I
it was
think that's the
proved that I
point,
was there at the
right?
Capitol. I was there, you know.
Well, they're going to lose their lives if they try.
Yeah.
And
I don't know what the answer
unfortunate.
is. I don't know. But it's not reasoning by talking about, you know, how sad the sadness. But what you said was very interesting, because the way I get through them is humanity. There's a human thing that cuts through all of it. It happened when I was injured in Charlottesville, when the militia were the first to help me. And then we just broke through. We had this, you know, so that's my thing. On my last chapter, I have to try and do all I can to not solve it, but start
Reaching
out. You know, they go, oh, I fucking hate those guys. They're ridiculous, but they're not ridiculous. They're really nice. These aren't the guys that went to the Capitol. This is another echelon of MAGA. These are the guys that go to the rallies, you know, and they just love him, and they drive around with the trucks with the big flags, and they just adore him. It's the craziest phenomenon. But if I figure it out, I'll get back to you.
They will be hurt eventually.
Yeah,
they'll be hurt. If they outlive him, they will be hurt by all of this, you know.
I hope they wake up.
I hope that good for you for reaching out. You're really doing God's work for sure. Yeah, for sure, Sandy, on so many levels.
Thank you, darling.
I really commend you. I really.
It's very, very important that people on our side reach out to people on their side, and the people that reach out are not going to be me. So.
Yeah.
And there's people who can't, and they're just too angry, and they have the anger to share, and that can have its purpose if it's directed appropriately as well. So they need folks like you who've seen it all, who are there, who are willing to, you're in the mix, and you're not afraid to be in the mix, and you're just doing it, and you're not there with judgment. You don't go in with judgment.
No, but that was the hardest thing I ever did. My first Trump rally was, tell me when we're out of time, was in 2019. I went to Minneapolis. I said, I'm not gonna be able to do this. I can't. I fucking hate this guy. So I hate him so much. And I just had this flash. I said, I hate him. Why do you love him? And the minute I ask them that question, and that's what I always use, it's always they're so willing to talk about him because they just love him. So what do you love about him? That's why I said, what do you love about him? And I'm genuinely interested, because how did this happen? Did this happen with Hitler? I mean, what?
Yeah.
Is that what happened with Hitler?
Yeah.
It's normal people.
Propaganda is powerful.
Yeah.
It's a powerful thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been shoved up our fucking down our throats for 30 years.
Long 8 years.
Yeah.
8 years. Not eight.
Well, prior to that, he was
in the Spy High yearbook when I was in high school. This guy's been around forever. He's been
in that show. I forgot about the show. He was created by Mike Burnett.
Yeah, we know. Yeah. All right, we got to move on. What other announcements do we have? And we have our after hours again.
We have the after hours. The link is up on our page and
on our YouTube page.
It's on our YouTube page. It should.
It's wonderful seeing you guys.
It should pop up. Okay. So we got one more. Are you going to go, or you got one more?
No, I'll stay.
Okay.
Yay! All right.
Like Jewish goodbyes.
Did I shame for Alan Weisselberg?
Yeah, I shot his perp walk.
What?
I shot 3 perp walks
for him.
Oh, shame.
Comedian.
Ashanda on you. Ashanda.
Shame on actually all the journalists who just treat the crime element and the crime family element as if it's just some kind of funny larkin way to frame it. And oh no, now they're calling the Biden the crime family. Like, shame on you for not being able to hold forth and really explain to people how real the crime is, how embedded in organized crime this family has been, and for as long as they've been, and what the stakes are for putting a fucking gangster into the White House.
Gangster.
Yep.
Shame on you.
I'm seeing all the comments here.
And shame. I don't want to shame anymore. I don't want to shame anybody anymore. Now it just feels like I'm
No.
shaming.
Forgive
Those
them.
first couple shames, those were earned. But I
Okay.
don't want to shame anymore. We're done shaming.
Last topic. Set the timer. We got to watch a little video. Hopefully the audio won't be too low. Because again, my phone, Here we go.
Okay.
All those combined. So was it this? You made a lot of concessions in the negotiation.
No, I didn't.
Okay. Is that?
Let's get to the bottom of that.
Right.
That is such a misnomer in life. Let me give you the truth about that now. And I'll give you the truth why I'm not speaker. It's because one person, a member of Congress, wanted me to stop an ethics complaint because he slept with a 17-year-old. An ethics complaint that started before I ever became speaker, and that's illegal, and I'm not going to get in the middle. Did he do it or not? I don't know. But ethics is looking at it. There's other people in jail because of it. And he wanted me to influence it.
Wait a minute. He wanted me to influence what? I missed that last part the first
He
time.
wanted me to influence the investigation into, and who he's, that's the former Speaker of the House,
That's Meadows.
Kevin McCarthy, talking
Oh,
about,
McCarthy. Get them mixed up.
talking about Matt Gaetz.
Matt Gaetz.
Matt Gaetz,
Oh,
there's so much,
pedophile.
there's so much smoke that there cannot possibly not be fire with this guy and the stuff that he's done. And what's happened now is that the entire apparatus of Congress and our ability to finance the Ukrainian defense effort and combat Putin and the forces of fucking evil are being compromised and slowed and delayed because Matt Gaetz doesn't want to face the consequences for the crime he allegedly committed, which is statutory rape, by the way.
Rape, yeah.
And trafficking.
Yeah, that
Sex
too.
trafficking.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
the guy,
that's the ethics
And
probe.
what's with that son of
Hang on.
his?
That's the House ethics probe that was in happening into this crime, potential crime. Well, no, we know there was a crime. Matt Gaetz's involvement in it. We have to see that Joel Greenberg was involved with down in Florida, but it became a federal case, as I understand it, right? And so the House was doing its own ethics investigation into it. Now, the Justice Department decided not to pursue Matt Gaetz anymore, I guess, or maybe it's on hold. We don't really know. That nothing was made clear. I don't know if we have clarity. Maybe I missed it. I don't think I did, but I could have. But the House was doing its own ethics investigation, and Kevin McCarthy is saying that because of that, because I wouldn't thwart that and I wouldn't get rid of that, Matt Gaetz had me removed as speaker.
Oh,
That's what he was saying in that clip.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's it. That's and even Joel Greenberg's lawyer was pissed that Gaetz hasn't been charged.
Yeah.
And this is a guy. There's lots of stuff with this guy. You just, as soon as you begin to look at him even a little bit, you're just like, wait, what the fuck? Like Sandy, you mentioned Nestor, his son. We still don't know what the fuck. That's all.
And the speaker's son. What the fuck is with these guys?
It's like they like to have
He
teenage boys
adopted
hanging around for some
teenage
reason that they're not related to. I don't know.
Boys
why.
of color.
Yeah, it's weird. And hey, maybe they're just really great guys and they just see themselves as 5 years older father figures or something, big brothers or whatever, far be it for me to know, but it seems fishy in light of all the other stuff that's gone on with this guy.
I'm just interested in the crime, and that again, everything gets reduced to one corrupt man seeking to weasel his way out of consequences for his potentially or alleged criminal acts. And so therefore the world gets fucked in some way. Like millions of people are at risk. Folks are getting bombed. We keep coming back to these, these single corrupt white men, they happen to be, that just that figure out a way to use whatever position of power they have, even a limited position of power. Matt Gaetz is just a member of Congress. It's not like he was Speaker of the House, but because they had changed the rules and there was as long as one person votes for it, and then he started leveraging and leveraging and leveraging until Kevin McCarthy was out because Kevin McCarthy would not interfere with the ethics investigation. So he's trying to, again, and we could list all of these men and some of the very high heads of states, right, engaged in horrible wars, right? Why? Well, one reason, trying to avoid accountability and consequences. So again, this is what happens, to tie it back to our last segment, when you have an actual criminal is given levers of power like this, is we end up with atrocities. It's not ever contained. It's never like the only consequences for Matt Gaetz trying to avoid accountability for alleged criminal acts or an ethics investigation. The only consequence is that maybe he just protects himself. The consequences are always huge and far-reaching because of the position that these men are in. And the consequence of that is that Ukraine is not getting its funding and people are being bombed.
The whole thing was Ukraine. Manafort came onto the campaign and introduced Trump in 2016, introduced Trump to Pence. Then he got the polling data and he gave it to the fucking Russians, right? And then Christopher 2.0. And then he went into the at the convention. He was brought on like a month before the convention, maybe shorter.
Because he had experience. He had experience brokering contested conventions, and they thought the convention was going to be contested. That's why we were told.
Right, you're right.
That's what we were told.
Yeah, that's what we were told.
The fact that he happened to have all.
That was the line.
He changed one thing in the platform. It was about Ukraine. The whole thing, installing Trump from the very beginning, has been about Ukraine.
That's the most important thing to Putin.
Exactly. That's why they put him in the first place. That's all. And now when I was a little girl, Russia was our enemy. They were going to drop a fucking bomb. We had duck and cover drills. They were going to drop a bomb on us.
Yeah.
In Hollywood, I don't know about anywhere else, but in Hollywood.
No, everywhere. So here we are. We're back to a finger wagging moment.
Oh God, who are you
and
shaming?
It just reminds me of Nancy Pelosi standing up and wagging her finger at Trump across the table. Remember, he was like this.
Right.
And here's this woman, and she's like, that's because all roads with you lead to Putin.
All roads lead to Putin. She said that in that pointing.
Yes, she did.
She certainly did.
She knew. She
the
knows.
whole
she knows.
staff and the cabinet there. It was great.
It must be horrible for them to watch. I just took our being an American for granted. All these, my whole life, I'm 80. I hate to keep harping on. I'm 80 is significant. October. And, I still go get teary at the flag and I'd say we used to say Pledge of Allegiance in the thing. And he has subverted our flag. These guys with the flags on their cars, I say, you're not supposed to deface the flag. They got Trump's mugshot on an American flag. They've got back the blue or whatever. You're not supposed to, right, Greg? You're not supposed to deface it.
You're not supposed to. I'm old enough to remember a time when Republicans got really pissed off when people were burning flags.
Flag burning. Of course, I burn my bra.
Right.
I think just to bring it back to this sort of like, it is. So there's maybe power in speaking from that grief of what we've lost as Americans in terms of everything that we sort of held dear, right? What was the word we were talking about earlier, Greg? It wasn't that we had a purpose, but do you remember? As Americans, things had meaning, but we were in that lane. I'm sorry, I can't recall the
agency?
word.
No, I don't know.
No. That we sort of held things up, and we talked about this last week as well. And we had that unity. We could come around that. Oh, that we had, not that we cared, but that we had a sense of moral straightness, and that meant something to us. I don't know the word. Why can't I'm like having a moment. I'm having
integrity. I don't know.
Moment. No, you're completely having a moment. You can't even remember. We had a whole conversation about this. But I'll come up with a word. We'll come up with it in the after hours.
New phone. Who dis?
Conscience.
Conscience. Yeah.
Yeah, Americans were supposed to have a conscience. We were supposed to, that was what it was to be an American. To care, to care about our flag, care about the things that we had in place for our national security, the people that serve. We cared for one another. We had a conscience. We understood, what that was a part of our identity as Americans, cared about our flag. So
flag, yeah. And I just hate what he's done because they're they're fake Christians and they're fake patriots. They're not patriots. But they really believe it. They believe it.
Yeah, because
They-
it's
with
all
their-
about the one man. So
yeah.
it's all been collapsed.
You know,
They'll,
the
they'll
truth is,
learn. They'll learn. I do think. I do. I'm sorry. I think that there will be a reckoning. I do. I just want to. I want to live to see it. But it'll
I
happen.
want to smoke a big fat cigar on that day. I'm going to say,
Yeah.
it's going to be,
I
they'll
don't know
be
what's gonna
feasting and
happen.
dancing in Jerusalem next year.
He
That's,
could go
you
to
know,
jail. Could he go to jail
Yes,
for Stormy?
he
Sure.
could go to jail for the gag order thing.
Gag order.
This is- I've been begging for this. Put the motherfucker in jail in one of the.
He'd
civil
love
cases.
it. He'd love nothing
my
better.
God.
He can't afford it to. He never paid any of his venues. He never paid $500,000 for these. The place where I was in Minneapolis, the Target centers. I mean, it's $500,000 a night for
Mhm.
security and everything. He never paid them. He's never paid any of them. He's never paid any. What's he doing with his money? He's never paid any.
Must be paying the lawyers.
everybody.
because the lawyers keep coming back around.
Might not be his. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah. All right. So we got to wrap up. It's time. Sandy, thank you so much for.
Thank you.
for
I
joining us.
love
So
it. I
great to
just see
you.
these wonderful comments. Thank you, everybody. That's so
Um,
sweet. Yeah, thank you. I love
everybody
you
for
all.
watching. If you want to join us at the after hours, join. You have to be a member to come hang with us in the after hours.
It's
And,
like
Will there be nudity?
$1.99.
Will there be
It's
nudity?
$1.99, and it's easy to come in, and we want to have you there. It's a different vibe. It's lovely. Come hang with us. We love that.
come hang with us.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you want to say shame on anybody, LB, on the way out?
No, but I want to say this, and I mean it. We're gonna get through this.